What's going on, guys? So this week we're going to be looking at our GPP lineup. We got a strange slate of games with Saturday games going on, Thursday games, all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. I feel really good about this lineup. Real quick, just to kind of tie into last week, our Thursday through Sunday slate, actually Thursday through Monday, I should say, the full slate of games. We finished right around 151. Just shy of 152 for our points. So if you played that lineup last week, you should have doubled or tripled your money, however you played that. It did really good in tournaments, easily cashed in cash games. So we're looking to repeat this week. Because of the games and the way they're kind of laid out with Christmas going on, I am only going to be posting one video. I do also have a Saturday slate games that I'm also going to run, but I'll probably just leave in the comment section a few players I like if you're going to be playing that slate. It resembles a lot of my Thursday slate games. The only difference is I have one player from the Eagles game. But aside from that, everyone else is going to be Saturday games. So anyways, let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with a value QB, and that's going to be Tyrod Taylor. So Tyrod Taylor, I played last week in a few lineups. He did get me 15.8 points, so not disappointing. Against Cleveland, I would have liked to see more, but he seems to be good for around 3x's value weekly. At $5,400, he's a great place to save some money. This week they're going against Miami, who's easily beatable in the air. Miami does have a pretty decent defensive line, but when it comes to the secondary, they get passed on quite a bit and scored on quite a bit as well. So I expect Tyrod Taylor to have a pretty decent week. I expect him to throw for at least a touchdown or two and hopefully top 200 plus yards. He seems to kind of waver around the 200-yard passing per game mark, which I wish it was higher, but at $5,400 you can't really ask for much more, so I'm good with that. If he gets us 15 points this week, I think that's solid. Next, we're going to go with Jeremy Hill against Houston. So Hill has been putting up some pretty decent numbers. Over the last few weeks, he's got 12 points, 26 points, 12, and 14. He has scored a few touchdowns over the last few weeks. He had some decent matchups against Baltimore and Philly. Those obviously are pretty decent defenses, and he put up some decent numbers. So I expect him to do pretty good against Houston. Their defense isn't bad, but without J.J. Watt, they're really not that great anymore. And their quarterback situation is obviously garbage. So I expect Cincinnati to be able to run up the clock pretty quick. There's rumors, I believe, that A.J. Green might be back this week. If he is, that's going to free up a lot of opportunity for Hill as well in the ground game. I think people will fade Jeremy Hill and either pay up for the studs this week or look elsewhere in that mid to low range area. So I think Hill is going to be lower owned with some really good upside at $5,300. I'm hoping to get around 15 points this week. Anything higher would be plus. But Hill definitely a lock for me this week. Next, we're going to run Howard. So Jordan Howard, he's been killing it the last few weeks. Now they're going to be looking at a different quarterback situation, I believe, over there moving forward. So it's going to be, Howard's going to have to carry a lot of weight. I mean, over 2 of the last 3 weeks, he topped 20 points against San Francisco, which really doesn't say much because everyone does well against them. He hit 32 points, but that means his ceiling is around 5x value. Now, against Washington's defense, they're definitely better in the secondary with Josh Norman against the pass. So, I think they're going to have to rely on that run game if they're going to want to control that clock and not turn it over a bunch. So, Washington is slightly underrated on the defense. They can put up some big plays, pick six, picks, whatever they need to do to control that game. So I think Chicago's going to lean heavily on Jordan Howard. I think he'll be higher owned than Hill this week. Definitely not the highest owned running back, but I think he'll be up there. But he's a must-play for me. He's coming off phenomenal weeks lately. He's getting a lot of carries, 17, 13, 32 attempts over the last 3 weeks, close to 100 on 2 of the 3 and topped 100 on a third. So really good production lately, and I think Jordan Howard is a must-play this week. Our wide receiver, first one up, is going to be Julian Edelman. So I think the chalkiest quarterback is going to be Drew Brees this week. I think second is going to be Tom Brady, and for good reason. They're going against Jets. Jets really can't shut down much right now. Their defense sucks. Everything about that team is garbage from the offense to the defense. They have a few little gems hidden in there. both sides of the field. But for the most part, they really can't shut down stud wide receivers and definitely can't shut down someone like Tom Brady. Obviously, I think a lot of people are going to lean more towards the New Orleans stack. They're playing at home. Breeze does pretty good at home. I'm good with that. I'll run some of that stack as well. But I really like Julian Edelman this week against the Jets. He's coming off just phenomenal weeks. I mean, now he is a little pricey at 6,900, just shy of 7,000. He really needs around 21 points to make sense. But I think against the Jets, he has some really good upside. Looking over the last few weeks, 13, 14, 21, 16, he is their most targeted wide receiver. Now, they do have a few other, like Mitchell, they have a few other wide receivers and dual threat backs that they can also utilize. But when it comes down to scoring touchdowns and just, in a sense, controlling the game flow, they lean to Julian Edelman. He gets a ridiculous number of targets, 11, 12, 15, and 12 over the last 4 weeks. Insane amount of targets. If a majority of those stick on PPR, you're going to be looking good. He gets a touchdown or two in there, and you're really good. So I think Julian Edelman this week is a must-play if you're looking to pay up for a wide receiver, and we're going to roll with him. And also, I mean, at $6,900 with his recent production, people may steer clear of him. He may not be as high owned as you expect, which would be nice. If we can get him under 20% owned and he goes off for 20-plus points, I'm happy. So next, we're going to run Taylor Gabriel. Now, I know there's some speculation and rumor that Julio Jones may come back this week. The guy's dealing with turf toe. Even if he comes back, I highly doubt that he's going to be anywhere close to 100%. Now, Julio, not at 100%, is better than most receivers at 100%, but still, they really need Taylor Gabriel. He's a deep threat receiver. Like I've said in other videos, I've been on this guy for weeks, long before his ownership jumped up to over 20%. And he's just a consistent guy. I mean, at $6,200, he's good for 15 or more points. He's a touchdown machine. I mean, the guy, if you throw it to him in the end zone, more times than not, he's going to come down with it. Now, he has 7 touchdowns on the season, but he actually didn't start shining if you look until week 8. So it really took him half the season before he really got to step out and show what he was made of. And once that happened, I mean, they're consistently using him as the number 2 guy or number 1 when Julio is sidelined. He has 26-point upside, which I'm all over. Even if he only has a decent day, 6 targets, 3 receptions, and a touchdown, he's good for 15 points. So the floor is very low, and for GPP, his ceiling is very, very high, especially if Julio is out. And against Carolina, their defense isn't great. I don't use the Washington-Carolina game as a ruler. Carolina's not really good right now. They had a good game against Washington. That happens from time to time. Atlanta's offense is way too explosive for that defense, and I expect them to spread the ball around, run it really well against Carolina, which is going to open Gabriel up for a lot of opportunities. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, this one is going to be, I feel, pretty low owned, and that's going to be Jordy Nelson. So for a number of reasons, I like Jordy this week. Aside from him being similar to Edelman and being a target magnet, I mean, the guy is their key playmaker. Now, earlier in the season, I was really heavy on Adams. I know a lot of people are also looking at Ty Montgomery right now because of the fact that he had a phenomenal week last week. And I think with his dual position eligibility, I think a lot of people are going to lean more towards the Montgomery line and less towards the Nelson line. They are going against Minnesota, who has a pretty good pass defense and a not-so-good run defense. Therefore, I think a lot of people will lean more towards Montgomery, which should drop ownership percentage down on Jordy Nelson. Nelson is very, very consistent. If you look at the game last week for Week 15, I played him in a lineup. He absolutely went off. He got that phenomenal, I think, 70-yard pass completion or something crazy, which put his point total up really high. 22 points last week at 7,300. That was 3x. At that price point, if you can get 3x on a receiver, that's really, really good. And he's done it with ease, 3 to 4x over 3 weeks consistently. So Minnesota, I think, is going to be a less desirable matchup for Green Bay receivers, which should give us lower ownership. And I think Jordy Nelson is a must-play. And I believe I read somewhere that they potentially could be dealing with snow and cold weather. Green Bay is one of the better teams when it comes to playing in that cold weather. Minnesota, I don't think, is as good, just considering a lot of their wide receivers and quarterback are not used to that kind of condition. So I would say Green Bay, Jordy Nelson must play this week. All right, next up we're going with Zach Ertz at tight end. So Ertz, I mean, aside from the fact that the guy is absolutely consistently putting up phenomenal numbers, he's getting a ton of targets. Philly is struggling across the board right now with getting guys to stay healthy and perform consistently. The one consistent marker on that offense since he's come back from injury is obviously Zach Ertz. 14 points last week, 24, 22. He had an off week against Green Bay. I believe that was weather conditions that had a big effect. I have to go back and look at that. But, I mean, double-digit outings every single week that he's been back from injury pretty much. With the upside of 22 points, around 4x his value right now at 5,300. I like the upside. Even on the safe side, he's pushing close to 3x. So I think he's a good play this week. Against the Giants, they have a pretty aggressive pass rush. They've been playing really good defense lately. And with that being said, I think they're going to rely on the short check down to the tight ends. They're going to need that play action pass to the running back. They're not going to be able to throw it deep as much with the way Giants are playing on the pass rush. So I think he's in for a good game this week against the Giants. And I believe that's going to be a pretty tight game as well. I think Philly will make it a pretty decent matchup for them. So Zach Ertz I really like this week for the Thursday slate. And last up in our flex position, we're going to run Kyle Rudolph. So I'm all over Kyle Rudolph. I have been for a while, and I have been running this exact stack of tight ends consistently, and it's been performing very well for me. If you look, he's sub 5,000, which is high end for tight ends. I actually think he might be the most expensive tight end, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't look at Zach Ertz. I think he's right below. But anyways, 17, 16, 10, and 15 points over the last 4 weeks. Phenomenal output. He's getting double-digit targets pretty much every single week, averaging around 12 according to Draftkings, 12 points per game on average. But it's recent performance that I really look at, and the way they're utilizing him in that offense. Earlier in the season, he started off real hot, kind of cooled down a bit, but they realized they really need to utilize that tight end position. And with Minnesota not having a lot, Adrian Peterson is back, if you want to call it that. He's definitely not his old school AP. So they are going to still rely on the tight end. I think Adrian Peterson will open up that offense for more opportunity, just given the fact that he has that huge upside as a running back. And I think Kyle Rudolph is going to be in for a good game. Similar to Philly, they really need those tight ends, and they utilize them a lot on a weekly basis. So Kyle Rudolph, we're going to lock in at our flex position. And then defense, this one's going to be a sneaky play. I think will be fairly low owned, especially after last week's performance. And that's going to be Atlanta Falcons as our defense. Now, I know a lot of people saw Carolina decimate Washington. They're going to immediately assume Carolina is going to repeat that. I'm not touching the Falcons. Or the Falcons defense, they're beatable. I say every week they're beatable. And they are. But Carolina has not been playing consistently. And if you look at historic numbers here, Atlanta early in the season when they played Carolina scored 11 fantasy points against that offense. Now, the score was 48-33, so it was a high-scoring game. They're going to have interception opportunities. Cam Newton does throw some crazy passes. You saw it last week when they went up against Washington. He picked on Josh Norman, and he really poked at him. So I expect Falcons this week. They are going to be explosive on offense. Therefore, Carolina is going to have to take more risk, and with more risk comes more reward on a defensive standpoint. Falcons are not going to be your team necessarily to get you a pick six on a weekly basis. They have the upside and possibility to do that. What I would expect out of them is if they can score me 9 points, get 3x that defensive number, I will be more than happy, and anything higher than that is just more upside. So we're going to lock in Atlanta Falcons this week, and that's going to wrap up our lineup. Again, we got Tyrod Taylor, Jeremy Hill, Jordan Howard, Julian Edelman, Taylor Gabriel, Jordy Nelson, Zach Ertz, Kyle Rudolph, and the Falcons. I appreciate you guys checking out my videos. As always, I appreciate the support. If you like my videos, please comment, subscribe. Let me know if you won last week. I'd like to know if anyone won. I've got some buddies that tune into my channel. They ran my lineups, and I know they won some money. So appreciate the support. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned next week. I'll be posting more videos once we're back on a normal schedule. And I will leave in the comment section a couple other value plays that I like this week. So stay tuned to that as well. Once again, I appreciate the support. Good luck this week, and have a Merry Christmas, everyone.